I see that Bob Heil has joined the massive number of people. And in fact, there's 61 people signed up at this moment. You might want to take this time, since we're waiting for our speaker, to introduce Bob Heil.
Yeah,
Heil.
sure. Well, welcome, Bob. Good to see that you're on here. I think we are all kind of interested in getting to say hi to you and talking with you. For members here, you may know him from Ham Nation. Oddly enough, I'm familiar with some of Bob's work from the audio industry. He's had quite a history in the audio industry, and as well as amateur radio. You may be actually using microphones that Bob has worked on or designed. Yeah, rather fascinating history. If you get the chance to look him up, there's a lot of good information out there about him. So Bob, welcome. If you're unmuted, pass it over to you. There you go. All righty. Awesome.
Okay, we got it. Yeah, we're in a new studio here. We've been, this is our home we've had for a couple of decades, but in Belleville, Illinois, we're just across the river from the Great Arch of downtown St. Louis. But we've had a place down in the Ozarks for about 8 or 9 years, and 5.5 acres and lots of antenna room. And I did pretty extensive work with phased arrays and all kinds of other things that I didn't have room to do. But I learned a lot about that situation, because I always heard, oh, a phased array. I'm thinking thousands of dollars, and no, not true at all. Maybe $30, maybe. you have 2 dipoles. That's what it takes. But there's so much you can do with it, and I'm fascinated by that. So we really enjoy learning things that aren't really in the audio world. But of course, I learned all of that phasing from the audio world. And, Mr. Paul Klipsch called me back in 1972. I was so amazed and honored. He called me. He wanted to come and see. He was probably saying to himself, well, what kind of an idiot would build a 10,000 watt PA? Well, it was me. We did one of, if not the first giant PA that toured back in the late 60s. And my first tour was with a band. I didn't know who it was. I said, well, we got this the manager called me and said, we got this little band down in Ohio, and we need to put them on tour, and you take that PA out. So we did. That was the James Gang, and a couple of dates into that tour, we discovered that Joe Walsh and I were hams. And our friendship has been so tight for all these many years after. And he's been a lot of help in some of the designs. And what you see behind me it's not just a ham radio station. You can see all kinds of nonsense laying around. I'm playing with lots of things, and always trying to make things better in the audio world. We don't have a lot of people in this industry. They go overseas, they buy a microphone that's OEM, they paint their name on it, and color it the same as their transceiver, and you've all been fools for years. But it's matching. Well, no. And ended up working for a couple of them back in around 1998. I had built the first equalizer in, it was 1982, got the cover award for QST. And I didn't realize what was going to happen. I just did it because I was doing something. I hadn't been on the radio for a long time. And I got back in, and my God, everybody's audio was terrible. I took a simple little 2-band shelving, and there we go. And wrote the article about how to build it. Well, it became the feature story and got the cover award. It started a whole revolution because until then, you didn't hear equalization in ham radio. And now it's got almost overboard. But back in '98, I got a really nice letter from Dr. Inouye, who owns ICOM, Inouye Communications. And he had a picture of his station. He had a wonderful IC781. Remember, that was the first one with a television screen. And he had one of my gold line microphones and one of these. And he said, I'm thinking about doing a new line of transceiver, and I want to put your equalizer in it. So we joined forces in Pro 1, 2, 3, all the way through the 7300 and the 7610 has my equalizer in it. A couple of years later, Dr. Hasegawa cornered me at Dayton and said he wanted to do it better. So we did a parametric EQ for him. And so it just continues on, and I just love helping people sound better. But then I started finding out that, man, it's not all about your transmitter. It's about your receiver. $15,000 transceivers, $400 transceivers, I don't care what it is. They have 1 watt, one little chip, might be 2 watts at 10% distortion. This is absolutely not acceptable. But we have to, because we figure, oh, it's got to be great. No, it's not. So I did something about it, and we just introduced this product last year, and it's really, really taken off. And guys are figuring out that, wow, there is new development. And see if I move over here just right. There it is right there. And we'll need to come back. I've got some really great demos with it that we can do. And it's unbelievable what we can do with proper equalization. I wonder, let's see what happens if I do something here. Yeah. There's a way here.
Germany. I hope I have a great good day here from Ireland. In India, Alpha Mike, over. Hello, CQ, CQ, CQ20, CQ, CQ20. Echo India 8, Bravo, Lima, Bravo, PI India.
It's bringing up that wonderful 2K. 2 to 3K, and there's a whole history, and we'll have to come back. I've got the whole history of Bell Labs, how Dr. Fletcher and Dr. Munson have to figure it out that these things were not flat. Every once in a while I get some, oh, I have flat hearing and I want to listen to everything flat. Well, if you did, you're in trouble. Everything we have is equalized. Bell Labs found that out in 1921, 2, 3. They had 4,000 scientists working there and figured out what was wrong. It was our ears. Everything you have is equalized. Might not have a button on it, but your telephone, your ham radio is not equalized. Your car radio is equalized, but you don't have controls. And so we have to think about equalization. And so that's what we've done. And the parametric receive audio system is stunning. And we'll come back and do a thing on that. But the thing that I really wanted to go with here in our short time, I got a little 4-minute demo. It's not a demo, it's a video of my phased array. And here again, this is all just 2 dipoles. I like to use coaxial dipoles because you don't have to have a tuner. They're broad-banded. And this goes back to 1938 when the government had MIT design this for radar antenna, and they didn't want to have to tune it. And so that's why I use coaxial dipoles. They're wonderful. And I've used them since 1978 when I figured out about them. But here's a little demonstration, and it's live. You'll be able to hear and see what phased arrays can do for you. Let's see if I can get this to play. Dipoles mounted atop 55-foot telephone poles. We put them in an inverted V fashion, and the poles are 64 foot apart. These are 500 foot from the operating position, fed with RG213. In order to make the antennas directly from east to west, we use a delay line.
a 43 foot here on 75 meters that's switched in and out of the driven element, either east or west. The down lead length is 126 foot. We take all of that coax, the down lead length, the 43 foot phasing delay line, and mounted them in a container, one of the plastic container boxes that we actually buried, and just the top of it shows. It's all sealed, so it's waterproof. But that's the way we get to switch all the components from 500 foot using one of the Amatron RCS 8V remote switches. It really works well. Take a listen to how we can get at least 10 to 20 dB difference east to west.
Like a lot of people do. Mine's usually 3 inches or so. You know, that's just after you done mowing it. And I know, you know, probably, you know, we get a dry day. I'm gonna have to lay out there and mow. That's just all there is to it, because you know, if you leave it that high, when it starts growing in it all, it's looking ragged pretty quick. So it's to that point now, and
the system really performs on weak signals. Take a listen as we switch to the direction they're coming from. Also note the preamplifier makes no difference on 75 meters on this signal. The preamp will, of course, make the meter read higher, but in many cases, the preamplifier does not cause the weak signal to be more readable. Check it out.
yeah, well, I see they introduced a display on it, and I don't know if that is their form of portal. What's that? Here's one.
Here's some great sounding AM stations, and we're getting about 20 dB front to back.
When the leaves drop off, I'll start using it. Daryl, works in digital recorder. I need to do that too. That'd be nice to have. You know, there's a comment to you too about your pictures with Fifi. I'd sent that out to a few friends, and one of my cousins that was. Well, we were talking about your view yesterday with Brian. Brian, you know, the thought was that you could locate that remote receiver behind Brian's QTH. And of course, by the way, if you have it out of Brian's QTH, you could use the internet. And one of the can't do a VW. Well, I'm going to need to go up on the hill and swing that log around to the west. The back, apparently. I thought I just didn't think about which direction anybody would be.
Great performance from just a couple of pieces of wire. You can do this. It's very simple. You need just 3 things. Of course, you need the antennas, but you need the delay line, you need the remote switch, and of course then the downlink links. The RCS 8V from Ameritron makes it so easy, but the delay lines are important. They have to be exactly 43 foot on 75, 22.6 on 40, and 11.4 feet on 20 meters. The downlead links, both of them have to be exactly the same length, and all of that can be coiled up and put in that container box that you bury. Keep in mind, you can do this with regular wire dipoles. Just make sure they're exactly the same height and the spacing is correct. Have fun with this great technology of phase.
Okie dokie. Let me get this. There we go. I hope that you can learn a little bit of how well that works. That's 75 meters, by the way. So I also had a pair on 40. I set those poles at, I think it was 65 feet, 62 feet apart, and height were the same. And then I came down, so I was 33 foot above the ground, and I ran a messenger line so that they were 33 foot apart. And that brings up another subject that the guys will say, well, I got my antenna 75 meters, 25 feet. I'm going to raise it to 40. I'll be a lot stronger. You know what? you might have been better at 25. You have to think in wavelengths. Otherwise, you're wasting money and time. And I learned this because back when I got back into ham radio, I started in 1956. But when I got back, I was on the road for about 15 years, so I didn't turn on a radio. But when I came back in 76, I got a general license. I was a technician for 17 years. That's a whole nother story that we need to talk about. I was the first single sideband station in the country to run a kilowatt on 6 and 2 meters. There were about 10 of us, but I was one of those first, but I had a Johnson 6 and 2 Thunderbolt with 128 elements on 2 meters. I was pretty serious about VHF, but it was in the middle of the greatest sunspot. So that's a whole story we'll cover about it because it's really fun stuff. But one night in around 77, 78, I had a group on 40 meters that I talked to every night. And we started out playing with antennas. I put up a reference dipole, 40 meters, 33 foot. And every night I came on the air, I had a different antenna. I had it pointed differently. I had it raised, lowered, and all that kind of stuff. And it taught me, I'm not an engineer, I'm just a crazy ham and a pretty good theater organist. But I learned so much. And it was true. If you follow the wavelengths, that's what's important. It's not the ego that, oh man, I got a 50-foot antenna. You'd be better off maybe at 33 or 66. And try it sometime. You'll find out. And these are all things that I don't read, and it really disgusts me because we need to learn these kind of things in our ham radio, and that's why I do these things and join the clubs. I've come through this thing. I just barreled through it with great mentors. I was so blessed throughout my life to have these great mentors that helped me learn all these things, and I get to share it with you. But this isn't anything from me. I'm just passing it on because they spent a lot of time dealing with this 15-year-old kid back in the day. The main one was K0DGE. He was the chief engineer at KMOX CBS radio. And man, did he teach me a lot. And then we got into with Paul Klipsch, and I worked with great bands. I learned a lot there. I was with the Grateful Dead. I helped them through some crises. It's really been fun through my life. Here we are, and I hope that we can come back and spend more time talking about other things than ham radio. I hope that little video came through okay. Did you
Yeah.
see it?
Yep, I was able to see it. I think some other people were. In fact, I think we might have a few members who are interested in asking you a few questions, if that's
Sure.
all right.
So, so I'll ask one real quick, Bob. First of all, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. We and we also and Bob, we appreciate everything that you've done for the ham community over the years. But I'm curious, with all the COVID issues that we're dealing with, and your connection through Ham Nation with other amateur radio clubs, are you seeing other clubs doing things like we are? Tonight we have 66 participants on this Zoom meeting, which I think is pretty cool, and we're going to try to carry on as normal. What do you see going on around the country? Are you seeing similar things? What are folks up to?
Yep, did one last night down in from Atlanta, and of course I did Ham Nation. We do that every Wednesday night, but yes, and I started a thing a couple of weeks ago on Ham Nation. I am so saddened by clubs that are dormant. This isn't one of them. Don't take this wrong, but there's so many clubs that, our meetings are boring. The word boring is not in my vocabulary, and they need help. They need presentations. They need something. And that's why I do this. I started a thing called Club Spotlight a couple of weeks ago on Ham Nation. Oh my gosh, opened up a whole list of them. And so every week now I was doing like one a week or so on. Now it looks like we're going to do one every night. And I love it because now we're going to do it with Zoom. So we're interactive. Before I just did it one way with Skype. Now we can do Zoom. So, man, I applaud you so much for doing this. This is cool. And thanks for having me. I want to come back when we can really dive into some things.
Yeah. I will say some of us in our club actually pride ourselves on the fact that we can be boring at times. I'm going to point over to AE4R right now. He runs the most boring net possible, in fact, which we had, I think, 32 members, Mike?
32 plus 5 SWLs.
Oh.
5, okay.
Anyway, we run a net, a weekly net, and I always say it's the boringest net on amateur radio. But somehow we keep getting new people checking in, so it must be more fun than boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you very much for talking to our club, sir. I learned a lot from your talk just now.
Well, we got lots more for you. I got a good closer when we're ready to shut her down. I got a good closer. Take about 2 minutes, maybe.
Hey, Andrew, I have a question.
Dr. Heil, this is Harry. I was the one who exchanged emails with you today, but we appreciate you coming. And as I mentioned, we'll set you up again here for a whole evening or a lot longer presentation. I'm envious of your Drake 2B there in the back. A nice looking radio. So I'll leave it open to others, but thank you very much for taking time.
Well, thank you. Well, if you like that one, you should like some of that over there. That's all my stuff. Some of that, you can't see it. I need to reset my camera. Down in the bottom is my Harvey Wells. It was my first transmitter in 1956 when I got licensed, and my parents bought it from Walter Ash. I still use it every morning on an AM net. Still has original tubes also. Oh, wow. And the Central Electronics, that was what I built that from a kit. And that was one of the first sideband stations because I built all this stuff to me. That's a whole story on its own. But what I use most on AM is way over in the corner. It's ICO 720, and you can see behind it the modulator with EL34s. It's a hi-fi. ICO took one of their hi-fi amps and made a modulator. I mean, it's really cool. And I got a Symmetrix 528E driving it. Incredible. It's really fun. But anyway, that's my love too. So Harry, you're right on with the rest of it. That's great.
Hey, Andrew. Lee.
Yeah, go ahead.
Question. I kind of involved. I was wondering if you could comment on phase distortion in audio, with particularly like the K3s versus, say, a direct conversion receiver.
Well, phase distortion comes. And it's really kind of funny because you could win trivia contest. A lot of people think that when you hear phase distortion or you see the S meter fade, the signal fade and come back up. No. That really is because of one thing, and that's the fact that your signal, if it goes out of here horizontal, it doesn't stay horizontal. It becomes vertical. And then you have this horrible phase distortion and it'll come back around. Phase distortion is caused by the fact that your signal is flopping around all the time.
Yeah, I was actually more interested in basic group delay time and the effect it has on, particularly with very sharp filters and radios, that, you know, your audio, I guess it's, you know, one frequency component takes a different time to transmit through the radio than another one. And it seems to me your ear is very sensitive to that.
What you do there is talk to Rob Sherwood and get one of his wonderful boxes that he built some time ago, the Synchronous Detector. That works great. And that solves that problem because it follows that problem of the different polarizations. Mm-hmm. And, have you ever had one of those or listened to one of those, one of the synchronous detectors?
I've built a synchronous detector.
Okay. Well, then you know what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's the answer. It really is. But it's all based upon phasing. And again, I never read about it. You know, all the handbooks and stuff, they're about this thick, and they don't talk about stuff that really is meaningful to us. Sad.
Well, once again, thank you, Bob, so much for coming to our club and meeting with us. And you said you have a 2-minute video you wanted to show us, I think.
This isn't a video.
Oh, well,
No, this is a
you,
live. This is live.
Go for it.
This is a live deal. You're going to learn a whole lot here in just a little bit.
all right.
First of all, go a little sidetrack. Here's 2 microphones that are exactly alike, painted different colors. We have a custom shop. This is one where we just built for Charlie Daniels. I mean, this is gorgeous work, and we do this in-house. We can put your call letters on it. Anyway, here's the deal. I'm going to tell you about phasing before I get there. Here's another one. You know, if you had a 500-watt amplifier and you're not making it, so you're going to buy a kilowatt, you're going to double your power. On the other end, what did it get you? 3 decibel. 3. And you can't deny this is science. Do you know how loud 3 dB is that you spent $2,000 on to get that big amp? Well, here it is. This is not a magic act. This is science. When I bring this microphone and talk into both of them, I should put a camera on that. You will note that there's going to be a double 3 dB. Here it comes. There it is. What? You know, listening is a mental process. Not a lot of people listen. They all hear, just physical. Yeah, I hear it. Listening, you close your eyes. And as I take 3 dB away, let's see if you can hear the difference. 1, 2, 3. I'll do it again. There's both of them. 1, 2, 3. No. The human cannot detect 3 decibel unless you're in some kind of anechoic chamber or something, you know, scientific. But no, we cannot detect 3 dB. That's a little side note that I give you. I love to do that because it makes you think. But here's the deal. This is what I come to let you hear. I have this magic little plug. Magic little plug, no big deal. It works just the same, big time, but it's out of phase because pin 3's hooked to 2 and 2's hooked to 3. It's out of phase, and yeah, you don't care unless I talk in both of them. What will you get? Nothing. The bomb could go off. Nothing. And the reason is this diaphragm's going that way and that one's going this way. That's the way so many things work. And man, if we had hours, it's my favorite subject. How does your noise blanker work? How do noise canceling microphones work? How is it when Joe Walsh said to me back in 1976, build us a microphone that has great rejection? So I did. The PR40 became real. And what I mean by real, let me I built this for studio work, but it's become very popular in amateur radio. What happened was we learned how to adjust things in the element. You will notice I'm 90 degrees off. You don't do that with any kind of microphone. I don't care if it's Sennheiser, Shure, Neumann, I don't care what it is. None of them can do this because we developed it to do it. Now comes the biggie. Joe wanted something that had great rejection from all the noise on the stage. Using phase distortion, yeah, nope, we applied phase cancellation. And check this out. It's 40 dB down. Oh, it still works, but it's 40 down. There is no microphone doing that. Sirius Radio just tossed out all their RE20s and bought 250 Heil PR40s. It should tell you something. And yeah, although I didn't design it for ham radio use, if you have a way to roll off the low end, why, it works great. So we got all kinds of toys. We'll come back and play with them and have all kinds of fun. Harry, I'm glad you contacted me. I'm glad we could stick our cold nose in here for a while. You have a great club. Continue to have great meetings, and I'm always around for you. Just holler, and especially now. What else do I have to do but join my buddies? Yeah, cool.
This has been great, Bob. Wonderful to have you here. Really, really educational too. So really have enjoyed you. So thank you so much. If you are so inclined, you're more than welcome to hang out for the rest of our meeting. We have a whole nother meeting after this.
Okay. I'm going to warn you about one other thing. This can happen.
Please sit down, make it happen.
Well, I'd mess up your meeting if I did that. You really?
Yeah, but these people don't know.
You want me to do that for a little? I can do it for a couple minutes.
Well, I would love to hear that. I think, though, we might need to do a few other things here tonight. But
okay, let's see what happens.
We have no place to go.
Oh, all right. I'm getting overruled.
Couple minutes can't hurt.
I got to turn the camera on here. That little guy cooking. Okay.
All right. Let's hear this.
All right. Okay. Been doing this since 1956 also. Well, actually, 1952 I started, but playing the theater organ at the Fox in St. Louis. That was quite something in my young life. Let's see, what do we want to do? Well, let's do this.
This reminds me of the scene in the Pink Panther.
There we go. Cool. I push this over here. Wait till it boots up.
Hooray, hooray!
I don't know how that picks up because I just had the one microphone. I heard you would probably hear it okay because it's pretty loud in here. But
Have you ever modified any of those organs from what the manufacturer did to what Heil Sound did?
no, because all the stuff I did was pipes. That was all pipes. What you listened to there was something very new and very different. They sampled 24 different pipe organs around the globe, and that's what that is. It's a Wurlitzer, but it's sampled. Let me do something for you. We go over here, and we go up here and you can see all of the speakers. There's 10 of them all across the top. And I built that loft just for the speakers. Of course, the room is really made for all that, but it sure works good in here, and I'm thrilled to have it and get to share it. That's what I do. I'm on WTWW every Saturday night at 7 o'clock, 5085 on shortwave. Been doing that for years. So there you go. Sorry to take so much time, but I just have so
No
much.
worries.
Okay.
That was really great. I had to hear you play. It was really amazing.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Thanks for inviting me. Let's do more.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, Bob.
Cheers.
See you later.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks.